You are ready to start with your project and you have set an ambitious objective. Your objective is to solve that one reoccurring problem that everybody complains about. That's great. So, the next step is to collect some data and analyze your problem. But wait, what data should you collect? This can be a very difficult question to answer. Which aspect should you measure? Well, for example, if your project objective is to increase customer satisfaction, it's not so clear. Or what should you measure when you wish to prevent possible failures of your product? Or what is the data that you collect when you wish to increase accessibility of your healthcare provided by your organization? In this video, I will give you an idea on how to make a problem measurable. That is, how to select measurable characteristics that reflect your project objective. In the DMAIC phases, this is part of the measure phase, which is about making the problem quantifiable and measurable. This is also called the operationalization of your problem. You need to have process metrics that are relevant for your project objectives. Or, in other words, what characteristics should you measure? Let's take a look at an example. Suppose you work at a factory that produces waffles and each morning the production has to be set up. There is a problem, however. On Monday morning, the setup takes more time than on the other days of the week. Moreover, the process runs worse for the rest of the day. So, the goal of your project is to find out what causes this phenomenon and to improve this process such that the setup on Monday is equally good compared to the rest of the week. So, what should you measure to find out what to improve? There are two aspects about the Monday mornings that you want to improve. The first one is that it takes more time to set up the process on Monday morning. This can, for instance, be measured by the duration of the setup and by the start time of the production. The second aspect is that the process runs worse on Mondays. But what does worse mean? Well, in this example, this means that there is more scrap produced. So, to measure how well your process runs, you can measure the amount of scrap and you can measure the volume, that is the total production of a day. These characteristics are called your CTQs, or your critical to quality characteristics. But what exactly is a CTQ and how do you find it? A CTQ is a property of a product or a service that is relevant to your project objective. You can find it by asking yourself, what is the metric I want to change? And will your project be successful if I do that? In Lean Six Sigma terminology, this metric is called a CTQ. In other fields, however, this is often called your Y variable, your dependent variable, or the outcome variable. Let's take a look at another example. You run a project on processing address changes in an insurance company. Currently, management feels that this process takes up too much time, both for the business as well as for the customer. What do you think that the relevant CTQs are here? One of the aspects you want to improve is the time that it takes employees to process these address changes. This can, for example, be measured by looking at the CTQ processing time per address change. The other aspect was the customer time. This can be measured by looking at the CTQ throughput time, which is the time it takes for the address change to be processed. This includes the time a customer takes to fill in the form, the waiting time, and the processing time. In most service processes, processing time is measured in minutes, whereas throughput time is often measured in days. Let's test if you understand the idea. You run a project for a sales department. Sales representatives are hired to visit potential customers, investigate their needs, and write an offer. They also follow up on questions or complaints from existing customers. Management complains that the revenues are too low, since representative visits too few clients. Work pressure felt by these sales representatives is too high, and they argue that they are overburdened by administrative tasks. So what are the CTQs? Now pause the video, try to answer this question before you continue. Are you ready for the solutions? Well, the process is that sales representatives are hired to visit customers and investigate their needs and write an offer. And they also follow up on questions from existing customers. The project had two objectives. One, to increase the revenues, and two, to lower the work pressure. But how would you quantify revenue and work pressure? To measure revenue, you can, for instance, count the number of visits, as well as look at the conversion rate of these offers. The work pressure can be expressed as the time that is spent with new customers, the time that is spent with existing customers, and the time that is spent on administrative tasks. There are often multiple ways in which you can select your CTQs. Always be critical when you select your CTQs and look whether they capture the project objective. In summary, a CTQ is a property of a process, product, or service that is relevant to the project objective. You can find it by asking yourself, what would you want to change? CTQ is Lean Six Sigma terminology. In statistics and other fields, this variable is called your Y variable, the dependent variable, or the outcome variable.